Batman retires to Pittsburgh. You're watching Beyond the Trailers review of Out of the Furnace.
It's a whole nother world up in there. Don't read of justice, and it does not include us.
This guy, he haunts those mountains.
Please don't do anything. You don't want to go there.
We begged him, but Christian Bale would not return to the franchise that made him a household name. In fact, with hefty paychecks from his time in The Cape and Cowl, and having finally won that Oscar, this is Bale's time. And as the actor's actor returns to the kind of roles he originally gravitated towards at the beginning of his career, it's time to see if the fanboys will follow him. Don't forget, pre-Batman, Bale's most notable role was American Psycho, which earned just $15 million at the box office. And even during his Batman run, he didn't star in any other movies, as he took supporting roles in box office hits Terminator Salvation, Public Enemies, and The Fighter. But now, post-Batman, Bale is set to star in 2 films this year, Out of the Furnace and American Hustle. Both are Oscar contenders, with Out of the Furnace relying more on pedigree than Flash. It's writer-director Scott Cooper's follow-up film to Crazy Heart, a similarly nitty-gritty prestige pick which won the Oscar for Jeff Bridges. And Warner Brothers has already drafted Cooper to take over for Ben Affleck as director on their upcoming adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand. On screen, Bale will be backed up by actors who also have some, but not quite as much, critical cachet. Casey Affleck, Woody Harrelson, Forrest Whitaker, Willem Dafoe, and Sam Shepard. Zoe Saldana also co-stars, herself still struggling to define her career post another big franchise, Avatar. Ridley Scott and Leonardo DiCaprio produce, but both lack a solid track record in that department. Don't worry about Bale, though. After Out of the Furnace and American Hustle, he's already set to star in Terrence Malick's upcoming film and is Moses in Ridley Scott's Exodus. He's doing exactly what he wants. Only question is if any of us want to watch. Unfortunately, Out of the Furnace does play more like a film for Bale than for audiences. And if he wanted to scratch his acting itch, it's scratched away. He's very good here. He's always very good. I think there's no denying that Christian Bale is a wonderful actor at this point. And when you see a film like this, it's an unfortunate reminder of what could have been with the Batman films. Even though Nolan's Batman is by far the most developed Batman to date on screen, any of us who are comic book readers know that Batman has so much more depth in the comics. And so the fact that Hollywood continues to not mind that and focus on the villains, especially when they had someone like Bale at their disposal, is a little frustrating. And Out of the Furnace is a little frustrating as a movie, by the way, because like Bale's character, it's just very non-committal. It doesn't make any bold moves. Now, one of the most interesting things I thought about the film, well, first off, I thought it was very realistic. That was impressive. I have family from this part of the country, right outside of Pittsburgh. My mother grew up in Pittsburgh. My mother's cousin, actually, something happens to Bale at the beginning of the film. He does something which actually my mother's cousin did. And so I can tell you, I've walked these streets that are depicted in the film, and this film gets it right. They're not exaggerating anything. This is something that's happening in America. And I think this film is very respectful of portraying not just the hardships, but the sense of community that also is in this area. Now, the other thing that was fascinating to me was that Christian Bale's character reminded me a lot of a modern George Bailey, and that he could leave. He could have, numerous times during the film, he could have just walked away. But at the same time, he had such loyalty to his family and wanting to do the right thing, and he was such a kind person that he couldn't walk away. He couldn't do it. And that reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life, only the difference here was that Clarence never showed up to try to, kind of remind him of what he was trying to do. And also, Christian Bale's character has much worse luck than George Bailey. Things don't work out for him. But still, as you watch the movie, to see Bale continue to, try and do the right thing, it becomes almost frustrating because he's almost like a human punching bag that's letting people vent on him. And you feel very bad for him. And that was my problem with the movie. That if you're going to tell a story like this where a character makes seemingly frustrating decisions and, does things that I think most people in the audience would be, to feel to some degree defies common sense, you need to depict that loyalty and what's going on in Bale's mind more. The film needed to go deeper emotionally if it wasn't going to be more creative in terms of the story, the bare bones of the story. Because, you can predict what's going to happen here before it happens in the movie. You can see everything coming a mile away. And I just never got into Bale's head as a character, despite his acting and the efforts by the film. And so that was frustrating to me. I think that this needed to do more of that. I mean, I got a little bit into Casey Affleck's head as a character, and Casey Affleck was very good too, by the way. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for being as good an actor as he is. And I did get the brotherly bond. I thought the movie did a good job with that. But still, at the end of the day, you were just too removed from it. And so I think they wanted to create a situation where it was like the Titanic, where it's like these people have no choice. But when you were watching it, you're like, no, I still think I see an out for you. I think you have a choice. And I think that they, and sometimes even though you actually have a choice, you as an outside party can see it, the person who's so in their own head and so troubled that they don't see it. And I don't think that point was made well enough either. One of the interesting things also was that I think this movie really underscored or hinted at that how our country's government, both civilly in the civil circuit and in the military, really let a lot of people in this country down. They're not there for them. Where was the government at the city level for Bale's family, and where were they for Casey Affleck as a soldier who was clearly having problems readjusting to life? You don't see that. I mean, I know there are organizations, but again, frustratingly, this was just touched on. I think this movie had a lot of different directions it could have gone in, and it just chose never to go in any of them. It was just straight middle down the road, and even though the acting talent was there, the directing talent was there, it's just so non-committal and so predictable that I really don't feel it's worth seeing. Unless you're a big fan of Bale, or maybe you're from this neighborhood, you might, that adds some extra interest to me, being like, oh, this is a story of a place I know that I am from, my family is from. And so I would rate for rental at the very most, at the very least. But even as a rental, unless you really like this kind of movie and you just enjoy watching it, even if you know how it's going to end. Sometimes people just like a genre and they're like, you know what, I don't care. I mean, part of what I like about it is that it's always kind of in this vein. Then you can watch it. But if this isn't your kind of thing, I would go watch FX's Justified. I think that's a little bit more inventive. And I would see Bale and American Hustle. I think there's just better uses of your time because this film just never commits. And it's frustrating because it had directions it could go in. So that's my review of Out of the Furnace. If you've seen the film, please leave your own thoughts down below. Thank you for watching my review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.